A little sneaky thing I enjoy doing sometimes is just looking at other people's cards too. See what they've purchased, and then have a look at them and see if they look like what's in their cart. And 9 out of 10 times, they sure do. Gary Robinson, fitness foodie here, sitting in the old Jeep, just about to go into my local grocery store and do some grocery shopping. So I figured, what the hell, while I'm in there, may as well go up and down the aisles, show you some of the foods that I typically pick up or I'm interested in to keep me on track with my diet, and show you stuff I typically stay away from. Well, I have to say, unfortunately, I don't get a whole ton of stuff in the bakery section. I'm always watching my carbs. So if I'm buying any bread, it's a very specific type of bread. I will be picking up some stuff, so I'll give you a little look at what that is. When it comes to processed meats, I rarely buy in. There's just so many additives, preservatives, sodium, stuff like that. It's just not really worth it. When it comes to regular meat, in the form of beef, for example, I'm typically looking for inside eye of round, top sirloin. Those are the two leanest cuts. Beef tenderloin is also a fairly lean one. When we get into the pork, the only cut of pork I typically will buy when staying on track is going to be pork tenderloin. And with the chicken, I don't really care if it's chicken breast or chicken thighs, both skinless. Chicken thighs have like 3 times the fat, but it's still very low. When I'm following a keto approach, the cheese aisle is one of my favorites, along with the cured meats. I'll get them then. But when I'm being like just super clean and a balanced approach where I'm taking in carbs too, I'm typically not going to have any cheese in my diet, unless cottage cheese, which I will be picking up some cottage cheese today. Here's the type of bread I typically buy. It's a spelt flour bread, which is going to be lower GI. I like to get breads where they have a nice sized slice, but it's still under 10 grams of carbs per slice. It just makes it that much more convenient for factoring into my meals. A couple slices of bread and a sandwich is just going to give me 20 grams of carbs. It's pretty low. Here I have corn tortillas versus the flour tortillas. Flour tortillas are high GI, getting that insulin spike again. The corn tortillas are lower GI. I could eat these as is, but I like to fire roast them over my gas flame for tacos, and I like to actually put them in the toaster to crisp them up for some other crispy option. I often look in the frozen fish aisle to see what's going on there. Shrimp is a nice lean protein source. Another fish I typically will pick up is basa fish, again high in protein, low in fat, fairly inexpensive. And another one that I like to get that's also very inexpensive, Alaskan pollock fillets. They're also high in protein, low in fat, and very versatile. I can do lots of stuff with them. Often when I'm choosing my protein sources, I know the kind of products that I'm going to look at, what are going to be my leanest choices. Then it's usually just a matter of, to be honest, like what's cheapest, and because I can pretty much make anything with anything. Like whether it's chicken, beef, or pork, let's say it's a taco, chicken, beef, or pork taco, or a fish taco, or a shrimp taco. It's the same thing. I'm just replacing the protein. Simple. The produce aisle is the section where you're going to find most of your very low-calorie options to add that extra filler if you're trying to really watch your calories. Also where you're going to find a lot of healthier starches to bump up your calories. Today I'm going to be buying some jalapenos because they fit in well with all the Mexican or Latin flavored dishes I like to make, as well as I'll be getting some Thai chilies. I love the heat from them, and again, they go very well with all the Asian dishes that I typically enjoy making. Tomatoes, I can use those in a variety of ways, from salads to cooking with them. They're fairly low in carbohydrates. I like to also get some avocados. Once again, they go well with the Mexican type flavors I like to use. Make sure that you give it a little squeeze, just as a little bit of give. With onions, I don't use tons of onions, but if I'm cooking with onions, it's typically going to be the yellow onion, or I like to use those in salsa sometimes. A lot of ethnic areas prefer a stronger tasting onion. The red onion's a milder onion, great in salads and usually served raw. Cucumbers, perfect to have around, nice and filling, basically just water and fiber. I always pick up a couple of heads of lettuce. It's nice and cool and crisp in a salad, on sandwiches as well. I like to replace wraps sometimes by using the lettuce itself as a wrapper instead of a bun or something. Celery is another great one to have around. Again, mainly fiber and water. You can eat this stuff till the cows come home. I use a lot of green onions. Again, kind of a fresher taste, almost a bit of garlicky vibe in there. Goes well with the types of meals I typically prepare. Herbs, super important. Cilantro, I love, goes with most Asian and Mexican stuff. Parsley, a lot of Italian, that kind of thing. Mushrooms are a great thing to throw in your diet. They take up some space in your belly, but they don't have a lot of calories going along with them. With fruits, I don't typically eat tons of fruit, mainly because of the sugar. Limes and lemons I do purchase because, once again, they're going towards flavoring the meals that I make. If I am buying fruit, it's typically going to be the lower GI stuff, so it's going to be apples, possibly some citrus. I might pick up some pears, peaches, cherries. I'm not going to get, and of course berries. Berries are very low. With potatoes, typically not buying a lot of potatoes, but when I do buy potatoes, they're typically a sweet potato. It's going to be lower GI, more nutrients, and a little bit more interesting. When it comes to the organic section, here we see all the organic snacks. We've got all the different types of chips made by all sorts of different ingredients. At the end of the day, people, they're chips, okay? Let's just look at them like the potato chips. They have lots of fat. I don't care if it's a parsnip or what it's made from. It's, at the end of the day, basically like a potato chip. Then we get into the other snacks, a lot of heavy nuts and things like that. When we get into these trail mix type things, calories add up really fast. Still got sugar in there, and you have lots of fat in there too to go along with it. So you want to be careful with those. The thing I like to pick up is these konjac noodles, or a shirataki noodle. So basically it's made of a Japanese root vegetable that's super low in carbohydrates, just mainly fiber is all you're getting from it. So you can eat these things, substitute pasta in your dishes or noodles in your dishes. They're nice and filling, and really the calories don't count. I don't really count them for anything. When I'm in the dairy aisle, it's not a lot of stuff I'm looking at there, but what I do typically get is cottage cheese. Cottage cheese is a great protein to consume in the evening. It's mainly casein protein, so it's a slow-release protein, helping repair those working muscles all night long while you sleep, giving that slow release of protein. With yogurts, it's either a Greek yogurt or a Skyr-style yogurt. Typically, I'll get plain. We don't want any added sugar. The ratio of protein versus carbohydrates in these style yogurts is much higher. Typical yogurt, you get a lot more carbohydrates in it than you do protein. With fats, I'm a big fan of essential fatty acids. The Udo's oil is the perfect blend of your omega-3, 6, and 9. These fats help you actually burn fat and get lean quicker. Plus, your body needs them. They are essential. What else is essential? Spices, my friend. The spice aisle is your best friend. Make sure that you go down there and you understand. You could pick up certain spice blends ready to go, but often they'll have sugar in them. Speaking of sugar, we have sweeteners. I typically will buy artificial sweeteners, stevia for the more natural, and then you do have obviously the aspartame and whatnot, but I look at them as a lesser of two evils. Regular sugar, you're getting that insulin spike. You're definitely not going to be getting that with these sweeteners, and again, just go easy on them and you should be just fine. I'm not going to buy things like fruit cups or prepared puddings and stuff. Definitely not getting any kind of juice. That is just not in my vocabulary, although I just said it. The only kind of calories I'm going to be getting if I'm drinking is going to be from wine or something like that. I'm not drinking cows. With oils, typically I cook with a coconut oil, has a very high smoking point, or grapeseed oil or avocado oil, one of those types. Olive oil I use from time to time, maybe in a salad, typically in a cold situation, but not cooking with olive oil. It has a much lower smoking point, and once it hits that smoking point, your quality fats go way down. I like to use soup stocks. They come handy in many ways, making sauces or, well, making soup, pretty much straightforward. I'll go with a low-fat version, ideally a low sodium. Again, great way to get some flavor in your foods while adding very little calories to them. Mayonnaise, I do use mayonnaise. I'll typically get the half fat. I find that the fat-free has too much of a gelatinous texture to it, and the full fat, I don't need that much fat. Having the half fat gives me a little bit more flexibility, and if I need more fat in my meal, I could add some healthy fats to it. Don't buy a lot of prepared sauces, definitely not ones with a lot of sugar. I'm always looking at the label to ensure they don't have much sugar. Hot sauces, a lot of variety of hot sauces, and hot sauces are usually generally very low in carbs and very low in fat, typically just higher in sodium. But I have a variety of hot sauces in my fridge. They come in handy for, once again, all the different types of ethnic dishes I cook. Mustard's another thing I like to have around, whether it's a yellow mustard or a Dijon mustard. Again, I can make dressings with this. I can add it to all sorts of different cooked items. With ketchup, I use ketchup from time to time. I use ketchup to make a base for my own barbecue sauce. But you have two types of ketchup. You have regular ketchup and no sugar added ketchup. Regular ketchup, as we can see here, if we look at the sugar, we can see it's got 4 grams of sugar. The low-carb ketchup only has 1 gram of sugar, therefore 75% less sugar. So they taste almost identical. I end up always going with the low-carb. Canned things like tuna and whatnot, I'm not going to be eating several cans of tuna a day, one every now and then, but again, nice, cheap, high-protein, low-fat source packed in water. Pickles, I like to have pickles. Again, sodium's an issue, but if I'm choosing a pickle, it's typically a dill pickle. Any of your sweet pickles are going to have a lot of sugar in there. Olives, I will use olives as well. Olives are mainly a fat source. If anything, there's usually a bit of fiber in there, but mainly fat. The manzanilla, I find, is one of my go-tos because, again, extremely low in carbohydrates. Every now and then, I'll pop a couple of those babies in my mouth, get a nice little sour, pickly vibe, and I'm good to go for the next couple hours in between meals. Don't buy a lot of milk, but when I do buy milk, I tend to buy a brand that has a higher amount of protein and less carbs. With, once again, sauces, pasta sauces and stuff, I would much rather make my own. So I'll typically buy something like strained tomatoes or just straight up canned tomatoes, generally for a half cup or whatever, and a half cup would be a lot. I wouldn't be consuming that in one go as a sauce on my meal, because my meal is going to be small, but like 7 grams of carbs, only 5 grams of sugar in there, and I can make a lot of stuff with that. With starches here, I get into my rice. The whole grain brown rice from Uncle Ben's is the one I generally will get because it's going to be lower GI than regular brown rice and much easier to cook, and I'm thinking more about the GI and the glycemic response. But I will be honest, I do cook a lot of Asian food, and I do really like jasmine rice. It's white rice, it's higher GI, we shouldn't have that much, but I like it. With pastas, typically stay away from the white flour. Semolina, I go for the spelt pastas. Once again, lower GI. Obviously having beans, things along those lines, chickpeas and stuff like that, they're a great way to get a starchy carb in the mix that's going to be lower GI. These canned mixed beans, you can easily turn them into a salad, which is something as simple as some vinegar, a little bit of onions, some fresh herbs, maybe a tiny bit of oil to bump up your fat. Dry cereals, never buy any dry cereals. I don't care what type it is. If it says no sugar added, whatever, it's so refined. The more refined something is, the higher the GI. They pretty much all have the same score as far as GI and making you score fat. It doesn't matter if it's a quote-unquote healthy or not. Oatmeals, I typically buy the old-fashioned oatmeal. I don't buy the flavored oatmeals. They have a lot of sugar added to them. That's not what I want. All these kind of bars with all the trail mixes and, you know, the dips, the granola, they're all garbage. I don't go near any of those things. Once again, it's not about the calories, it's about what those calories do. With jams, I do like to use jam, not only on a sandwich, but I will actually make vinaigrettes with jams. I could do different things. I'm always going to go to a no sugar added jam though. Typically, no sugar added can anywhere from 2 to 5 grams of carbs per tablespoon, where a typical one with sugar, you've got about 13 grams of sugar per tablespoon. So a big difference there. Peanut butter, I use peanut butter. It's always a natural peanut butter. It's basically just peanuts. Maybe they add some salt and that's it. So it'd be the type of peanut butter with the oil on top that you have to mix up. Popcorn, Smart Pop, all these types of things, don't go near them. Once again, just high GI snacks that are low in calories but make your body store fat. You can't burn fat when you have insulin pumping through your system. All these refined crackers and stuff, I don't care if they're multigrain, stay away from them too. The rice cakes and all this type of stuff, once again, fat storage stuff, may just be a few calories, but you can't burn any fat as long as you're consuming them. The rest of the potato chip aisle, it's nice to walk down every now and then and see what the new flavors are and stuff like that, but I never buy any of that stuff. Cookies and whatnot, once again, if the grandkids are coming over, that stuff's coming in the house, but if it's just me and my wife, we aren't eating any of that. Oh, the decadent, I used to love them. Eggs, I do buy eggs. I don't buy omega-3 eggs. They have very little omega-3 in there and they are not worth the money. I'd rather save a couple bucks on my eggs or get a much bigger package for the same price and just buy regular eggs. Typically with eggs, it's the egg yolk that we have to be concerned about. There's different amino acids in both the yolk and the egg white, so I like to do a combination of both. But if I have a meal coming and I don't have a lot of fat allowed in that meal, I'm going to use less whole eggs and I'm going to make up the rest of the egg with egg white. So I could just scramble a mixture of whole eggs and egg whites. down with the pop aisle and the drink aisle, I'll typically buy a sparkling water. It feels like, you know, I'm having something special. There's a lot of different flavored waters out there. And of course, they're flavored with different sweeteners, so artificial sweeteners. So I'll typically pick up something like that. Little thing I like to grab too every now and then is Crystal Light or some Mayo. I drink a lot of water, and just adding a little bit of flavor just goes a very long way for me. Makes life just a little bit easier, because again, I'm typically putting at least 3 liters of water a day back. Down the frozen food aisle, and to be honest, I never buy anything in the frozen food aisle. If I do, it's going to be some frozen berries, but saying that, frozen vegetables, there's nothing wrong with buying those. They're usually picked at the peak of their freshness and ripeness and then frozen on the spot, so not a bad thing. But don't be buying pizza and Eggos and all that crap. So that's how the Fitness Foodie does grocery shopping. Hopefully you learned a little something there as I ran around. I'm bringing all these home now and then figuring out what the hell I'm going to make tonight. But I haven't eaten in 40 hours, been fasting, and we'll talk about that some other time. Take care. And yeah, so I'm starving right now, and I have to make sure I don't eat all these things before I get home. So, Fitness Foodie signing out.